Zoe woke before dawn, her room still dark, except for the soft glow of the city lights beyond her window. She lay very still, listening to the hum of hover cars floating past her building. Each time she heard that distant roar, her chest tightened. With grief, Lily was gone now. Lily had left for New Mars Colony only 2 months ago, but already Zoe felt as if her friend had vanished into another universe. She rose slowly and dressed in her usual gray jacket and jeans. She paused by the mirror and studied her own face. Circles under her eyes spoke of nights spent staring at a blank screen, waiting for a message that never came. Zoe remembered Lily's bright laugh, the way it always filled the room like sunlight. Now, even the strongest holocall felt cold and lifeless without her voice on the other end. In the kitchen, Zoe poured herself a cup of bitter coffee, set it on the table beside her datapad, and tapped the holocall icon. The image of Lily's empty chair flickered on the screen. Zoe's heart ached. She tried to smile. "Hey, Lil," she said softly. She waited, imagining Lily's warm response. But the screen went dead. No reply. She sat there in silence until the holocall timed out on its own. After a moment, Zoe closed the datapad and wrapped her jacket tight around her. She stepped outside, into the cool morning air. In the narrow plaza beneath her apartment, fresh plants grew in neat rows under soft LED lights. The smell of damp soil mixed with ozone felt comforting. It reminded her of the little garden she and Lily had tended. Together, they had planted blue starflowers that glowed under the moonlight. Zoe missed painting those petals with Lily's gentle hands guiding hers. She walked to the edge of the plaza where a small bench faced a panoramic view of the city. The skyline glittered with towers that reached into the clouds. In their shining heights, she could see the distant launch bay where ships left for space. Somewhere in one of those vessels, Lily was now charting new worlds, speaking a new language, living a different rhythm. Zoe felt a hollow ache in her chest. She gripped the bench's cool metal armrest and whispered a promise to herself. She would not give up. A week ago, Zoe had sent the first message, a simple text. "How are you?" She had waited for hours, until her eyes burned. Then, when no answer came, she tried again. "Miss you." Still nothing. Each unanswered message felt like a door slamming shut in her face, but she refused to see it as final. Lily was strong. Lily was human, and humans never abandoned the ones they loved. Zoe reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small leather notebook. Inside, she had begun writing down memories of Lily funny jokes. Quiet afternoons spent reading, the rush of racing hoverboards through empty streets. She flipped to a blank page and wrote at the top, "Plan to reconnect." Beneath it, she scribbled ideas. Hologift package, recorded message, star sail drone. Her pulse quickened. The plan felt alive in her hands. Back in her workshop, cramped space filled with wires and blinking consoles, Zoe set to work. She cleared a spot on her desk and opened her toolkit. Using spare parts from old drones, she began constructing a small, spherical device, no bigger than her palm. It had a solar panel on one side and a tiny projector on the other. The device could drift on solar winds between Earth and Mars, carrying one message and one message only. As she soldered the last connection, Zoe thought of Lily's love for old-fashioned gestures. On Earth, they had once sent paper letters in glass bottles down a river. Now, across millions of miles, Zoe would send her own modern message in a bottle. She smiled for the first time that morning. The device was ready. At twilight, Zoe packed the sphere into a protective case and carried it to the rooftop. The air up there was cold and thin, but she barely noticed. She raised her arm and released the device into the gentle breeze. It hovered for a moment, its solar panels catching the last rays of sun. Then it rose higher, propelled by a soft hum, and disappeared into the violet sky. Zoe watched until a single blinking light vanished among the stars. Her heart pounded. She felt both fear and excitement. What if the device failed? What if Lily never saw it? For a moment, doubt clouded her resolve. Then Zoe straightened her shoulders. This was what humans did. They reached across the void. They refused to yield. They believed in hope even when all reason said no. That night, Zoe returned. To her bench in the plaza, she closed her eyes and listened to the city's song hovercars, distant laughter, the rustle of leaves. In the darkness, she whispered into the wind, "I believe in you, Lily." And deep inside, she felt a spark of warmth, a promise that even silence could not quench. Humanity's spirit roared within her, louder than any fear, and Zoe knew she would wait as long as it took for Lily to answer. Zoe spent the next morning at her workbench, her eyes never far from the holodisplay. She had set up a small receiver to look for any sign that the solar drone had survived its long drift to New Mars colony. Day after day, the display showed only empty static and a blank log. Each time she rebooted the system, her heart sank. A little more, but she refused to give up. She tightened her jaw, reminding herself that humans carried hope like a living flame. Even in the deepest dark, her co-workers on Earth Station Alpha noticed Zoe's quiet determination. They saw how she rose before dawn and stayed late into the night. They watched her fingers dance over circuit boards as she tweaked antenna arrays and rewrote code to improve signal strength. Some whispered that she was chasing a ghost, since no one really knew if the drone had made it past the asteroid belt. But Zoe only smiled when they looked worried. She believed in ingenuity and grit. She believed that humans could connect across any distance. At home, Zoe kept Lily close in small ways. She lined up the glowing blue starflowers they once grew in her room, sealing them under careful glass tubes. Their soft light pulsed gently, a reminder that life could bloom even in nowhere spaces. She sat by them each evening, sketching Lily's face from memory in her notebook. Her pencil moved in smooth arcs as she captured Lily's bright smile, and the way her hair curled at the ends. Whenever doubt crept in, Zoe would trace those lines and feel her friend's presence in the canteen. Zoe shared her plan with Captain Reyes, who led the communications team. She explained that if the drone reached Mars orbit, it could broadcast on an emergency channel unlikely to be blocked. She suggested they beam a simple greeting, a piece of music they both loved, followed by Lily's favorite poem. Captain Reyes listened carefully, then nodded. He arranged for them to allocate extra bandwidth and gave Zoe permission to send the message once the drone's path crossed their range. That night, Zoe prepared the music file and recorded herself reading the poem. Her voice trembled at first, but steadied as she spoke lines that Lily had once recited to her on warm summer nights. "Though oceans part, our hearts remain," she whispered. She watched the waveform dance on the screen, a warm ribbon of sound. Waiting to leap across space, then she loaded it into the drone's memory bank and commanded the transmitter to activate when in listening range. Over the following week, Zoe spent every spare moment monitoring the receiver. Outside, the station thrummed with daily life service bots rolling past. Traders haggling over exotic goods, children laughing as they chased each other under the dome. It all looked cheerful, but Zoe felt the emptiness beneath it. She missed Lily's laughter in this same place. She missed the shared silence that spoke more than any words. Still, she pressed on, inspired by the human spirit that refused to settle for loss. One afternoon, Zoe calibrated the final antenna. Her holodisplay blinked. She blinked back in surprise. A small line of text scrolled across. Ping received. Her breath caught in her throat. She tapped the log, but the details had not yet arrived. She leaned forward, heart pounding. For a long moment, nothing else changed. The normal feed of static and empty logs continued. Her pulse slowed, until another line appeared, forwarding incoming signal. Zoe's hand flew to her mouth. She stared at the words as if they might vanish. She had tested the system many times with dummy signals, but this looked genuine. She tapped the keys to open the message buffer. It's a screen filled with an audio waveform she did not recognize. It was faint and broken, but unmistakably melodic. She hit play. A soft note rang out Lily's favorite song, the one they used to hum together in the garden, under the starflowers. Zoe closed her eyes as the music played, each tone a ribbon of memory, tying her heart to the distant red planet. Beneath it she heard a voice, low and breathless. "Zoe, is that you?" The words crackled with static, but carried the warmth she had longed for. Tears filled Zoe's eyes. Her chest swelled with joy, so bright it hurt. She pressed her hand to the screen as if she could touch Lily's face. The music ended, leaving a single, hopeful hush. Zoe swallowed, then whispered, "Yes, Lily, it's me. I'm here." She rose from her chair and paced the workshop, unsure what to do first. Should she reply at once? Should she wait for a clearer channel? Her mind raced with questions and wonder. Then she paused and remembered the poem. She lifted her voice and spoke into the mic, "Though oceans part, our hearts remain." The words echoed in the silent room. For the first time in months, Zoe felt a true connection. The distance still lay between them, measured in millions of miles. Yet this fragile signal proved that no wall could hold back human will and hope. She smiled through her tears, ready to rebuild the... Zoe woke before the sun rose, her heart still racing from last night's message. She sank to the edge of her bed and reached for her datapad. The screen glowed with the single line of text, "Though oceans part, our hearts remain." It was Lily's voice encoded as words and music, echoing across millions of miles. Zoe's eyes filled with tears. For a moment, she felt both joy and fear. Would Lily hear her next message? Could she keep this fragile link alive? She wrapped her arms around herself and promised to try. At breakfast in the station cafe, Zoe sat alone with her mug of warm tea. Around her, people chatted about daily tasks and market deals. None spoke of hope or distant friends. Zoe closed her eyes and pictured Lily's smile. She remembered their laughter under the starflowers, and she opened her datapad and began to record a new message. She spoke slowly, clearly, as if Lily stood right beside her. She told Lily about her work on new projects, about the dawn lights in the plaza, and about how every day she planted memories like seeds. When she finished, she saved the file and stared at it. "Now what?" she whispered. Zoe walked to her workshop and paced the narrow aisle between spare parts. Her station's radio waves still faded too quickly for a clear reply. She needed something stronger than the little drone. She pulled a worn notebook from her shelf and turned to the page, marked Plan B. Under it, she had sketched a rough design, a mirror communicator. It would use synchronized reflectors on Earth and Mars to bounce laser pulses filled with data. It was an old idea, simple enough to build, but precise enough to work across vast space. Zoe's pulse quickened as she gathered lenses, mirrors, and lenses from her bins. In the scrapyard under the station dome, Zoe found what she needed. She wove through piles of broken servos and burnt circuit boards until she spotted the perfect parabolic mirror. A trader watched her lift the heavy piece. He frowned. "That's ancient tech," he said. "Why waste time on that?" Zoe smiled. "Because old ways can solve new problems," she replied. He shrugged and let her pass. She hefted the mirror onto her shoulder and carried it home, feeling the weight of possibility in her hands. Back in the workshop, Zoe trimmed the mirror and mounted it on a swivel base. She fitted a small laser emitter at its center, then ran fine wires to a control console. Her fingers flew as she soldered connections and tested circuit lines. Slowly, the device took shape, a gleaming reflector that could track the rising Mars. In the sky, she programmed its tracking software and adjusted the beam's focus. When she powered it on, a small red dot danced on the far wall. She held her breath. It was alive. That evening, Zoe climbed to the rooftop again, carrying the mirror communicator in a padded case. The sky was clear, dust storms long gone. She set up the base and aimed the mirror toward the faint small dot that was Mars. With trembling hands, she activated the emitter. A laser pulse shot into the sky, carrying Zoe's voice message to Lily. "I see you. I believe in us." Then she waited. In the hush of night, only the hum of machinery answered. Minutes passed like hours. Zoe's chest tightened. Then her console blinked. A return signal. The laser had bounced back. Zoe widened her eyes as the data streamed in. She tapped the play button. Lily's voice rang out, soft and clear. See you too, Zoe. I never stopped listening. Zoe felt warmth flood her. The words crossed the void and landed in her heart. She pressed her hand to the console as if she could reach through the sky. They spoke again that night. Not just music or poems, but real words. They shared small details. The taste of Martian dust, the sound of Earth's morning breeze. They laughed over a private memory of racing hoverboards. Through the mirror communicator, they built a bridge of light and sound. Zoe realized that humans could knit together any distance. With creativity and courage, they could turn silence into song. When dawn broke, Zoe packed away the device. She looked up at the sky with a quiet smile. The mirror communicator would stay ready, shining between two worlds. Although Lily still lived far away, Zoe knew they were not alone. Humanity's spirit, bold, inventive, unyielding, had found a way, and Zoe believed that soon she would stand with Lily again under the glowing starflowers. Till then, she carried hope like a torch, bright enough to light even the darkest sky. Zoe woke before sunrise. Soft light crept through her window panels in Earth Station Alpha. She heard the low hum of cooling vents and distant creaks in the corridors. Her heart still raced from last night's success. Lily's clear voice had crossed millions of miles and reached her here. Hope swelled in Zoe's chest, but a flicker of fear followed. What if the link broke? What if that message was the only one? She rose and walked to her console, eyes shining with resolve and memory. At the console, Zoe opened her notebook page titled HoloLink. The page held sketches and notes in careful, hopeful handwriting. She had drawn a small hologram projector that could show three-dimensional images in thin air. She pictured the two of them together in their garden under glowing blue starflowers. Zoe believed that pure light and color could carry the feeling of home across the void as surely as sound. She closed her eyes and imagined Lily's smile. Determined Zoe carried her plan to the communications lab. The engineers frowned at her sketches. Holograms need heavy power and big projectors, one warned. Zoe did not give up. She explained how she could tap into the drone's solar cells to power a mini projector. She held up lightweight crystal modules she'd salvaged from the SCE, scrapyard and custom lenses from old satellite sensors. Her excitement proved contagious. Within hours, volunteers gathered around her bench, measuring parts, soldering circuits, and writing code for the holo module. By the end of the second day, the tiny hologram device sat on Zoe's workbench. It was a polished cube of glass and metal no larger than her palm, with thin wires and clear lenses gleaming under the workshop lights. Zoe carefully packed it in a padded case and carried it to the rooftop as dusk fell. The sky was cold and filled with stars. She unclipped the case, mounted the device on a tripod, and aimed it toward the faint glow of Mars. She held her breath and powered it on. A soft beam of light hummed into the night. On Mars, Lily stepped onto a colony balcony and brushed a lock of hair from her face. She felt her solar panels hum as the air stilled. Then she saw it, a slender beam of light from Earth's night side. As it swept past, the hologram flared to life. There was Zoe's face, warm and real, and behind her, the garden they had tended. Blue starflowers glowed softly. Lily gasped and reached out, her palm nearly touching the projection. She laughed, joy shining in her eyes. Zoe watched Lily's image on the Hala console and felt her heart leap. Lily's bright smile warmed her. She raised her hand, and Lily mirrored the gesture, petals of blue light dancing around her fingertips. They held the look for a long, wordless moment. Then Zoe spoke softly, "I miss you." Lily's gentle voice answered, "I miss you too." Tears welled in Zoe's eyes, but her spirit felt stronger than ever. Across the darkness of space, they had found each other again. Even so, Zoe felt a hollow ache. Seeing Lily's face was a gift, but she longed to stand beside her. She sat down at her station and scrolled through interplanetary flight schedules. Every passenger seat to Mars was booked months in advance. Cargo freighters did not accept civilians. Import rules protected fragile ecosystems. Frustration pressed in on Zoe, but she drew a deep breath and remembered stories of daring explorers and hidden stowaways. If there was any way across, she would find it. She drafted a formal plea to Captain Reyes of Station Alpha, writing of human spirit, hope, and the power of friendship. She requested a seat on the next supply run. Passed in silence until a brief message arrived. Zoe, your passion is noted. Bring the holo device to the port. I will see what I can do. Zoe's heart soared. She wrapped the projector in its custom case and raced through station corridors toward the spaceport. Each footfall light with new hope. At the port, Captain Reyes greeted Zoe and led her aboard the freighter Aurora. The hold brimmed with water, tanks, food containers, and spare parts for colony equipment. Zoe kept her bag close and watched as the crew secured heavy cargo. When the engines thrummed to life, Aurora lifted off and left Earth's blue glow behind. By her side, testing its signal even as the ship slid through space, she recorded a quiet message into the recorder, Lily, I am coming soon. Hours later, the pilot announced their approach to Mars and prepared for descent. Zoe strapped into a seat, her hands steady despite her racing pulse. The ship rattled. As it pierced the thin atmosphere and touched down on red soil, warm Martian air blew through the cabin vents. Zoe unbuckled and pushed open the hatch. She stepped onto the dusty ground and tasted victory in the air. Across the plain, the colony dome glowed softly under a pale sky. Zoe ran toward a circle of glowing starflowers planted near the entrance. There, beneath the gentle lights, stood Lily, her eyes bright with tears and hope. Zoe's legs carried her faster than thought. She reached Lily's side, and they embraced at last, feeling the warm, real touch they had longed for. They laughed and cried together as the starflowers pulsed around them. After they let go, Zoe and Lily sat on a low stone bench among the glowing petals. They shared stories of lonely nights and daring plans. Every word and memory felt precious. Zoe realized that no matter how vast Zoe stood on the red Martian ground, her boots pressing softly into the dust. Around her, the colony dome shimmered in the pale morning light. Inside, machines hummed gently and green plants stretched under artificial sunlight. She should have been happy after all. She had made it. She had crossed space to see Lily again. They had hugged. They had talked. But now something felt off. She leaned on a railing near the colony garden and looked out over the quiet valley. Lily wasn't beside her today. She had gone back to her work in the colony lab. Of course, there were experiments to monitor and data to upload. Everyone here had a job, a purpose. Zoe was only visiting. She had left everything behind for this moment. And now she wasn't sure what came next. That feeling of distance crept in again. It was strange. She had traveled millions of miles, yet Lily still felt far away, not in space, but in spirit. They had both changed. Lily spoke about lab schedules and colony meetings. Zoe missed the silly jokes, the shared snacks, the long talks under Earth's stars. Now their conversations felt shorter, more polite. Zoe wondered if she had made a mistake coming here. That afternoon, Zoe wandered the colony halls alone. Floors were smooth metal, the walls bright and clean. Everyone moved with purpose, scientists with clipboards, engineers with tools. Zoe felt out of place. No one stopped to talk. She missed the messy warmth of Earth Station Alpha. She missed her little workshop. Most of all, she missed how close she and Lily had once been. She returned to her guest room and stared at the ceiling. The silence felt heavy. Notebook flipped past old sketches and hopeful plans and turned to a blank page. She wrote, I'm here, but I still feel far from you. She stopped writing. Her hand trembled. She closed the notebook and sighed. It was hard to say what she truly felt that night. She sat on a bench outside the colony dome, near the starflowers they had once dreamed of planting together. The petals glowed a soft blue under the Martian sky. Zoe touched one gently and whispered, Are you still with me, Lily? The wind didn't answer, but then footsteps. Light ones. Zoe turned. Lily stood there, holding two mugs. She handed one to Zoe. It's not tea from Earth, but it's warm, she said with a small smile. Zoe took the cup. Thanks. For a while, they sat in silence. Then Lily said, I'm sorry I've been distant. It's just, this life here moves fast. I didn't know how to make space for everything. Zoe nodded. I understand. Guess I thought when I got here, everything would go back to how it was. Lily looked up at the stars. We've both changed. That's okay. But I don't want to lose what we had, Zoe said quietly. Lily smiled. You don't have to. You just have to find a new way to be close. Zoe felt her heart lighten a little, like start fresh. Yeah, Lily said, start fresh. Not by going backward, by going forward together. The next morning, Zoe asked if she could help in the colony lab. She didn't have Lily's science training, but she was good with machines. She fixed a glitchy scanner and repaired a lab drone. The team started to notice her. They asked questions. One engineer invited her to lunch. Slowly, Zoe found her place not just as Lily's guest, but as someone who belonged. In the evenings, she and Lily walked the garden paths. They didn't talk about the past much anymore. They talked about new ideas, a music room for the colonists, a quiet corner with starflowers and benches. Zoe offered to build the bench herself. Lily promised to bring the lights. Their friendship wasn't the same as before, but maybe that was a good thing. It was growing into something deeper, shaped by distance, effort, and understanding. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the hill, Zoe looked up and saw Earth twinkling faintly in the sky. She smiled and whispered, We came so far. It was worth it. Because that's what humans did. They reached across the stars, not just with machines, but with hearts full of hope. Even when things changed, even when connection felt lost, they tried again. They built bridges with light, with time, with love. Zoe and Lily stood side by side under the Martian sky. The past was behind them, but the future stretched wide and brightened. They would walk it together. Zoe walked slowly through the colony garden, her boots brushing against soft red soil. Around her, tall plants swayed gently under artificial sunlight. The garden was peaceful, but her heart felt heavy. It had been almost 3 weeks since she arrived on Mars. She had hoped the distance between her and Lily would disappear once she got here, but somehow she still felt far away. Lily was always busy. One day, she was in the research lab, the next, in colony meetings. When they met in the evenings, they were friendly, but something had changed. Their talks were shorter. Their laughs didn't come as easily, so he wondered if time and space had stretched their bond too far. One evening, Zoe sat alone by the glowing blue starflowers. The petals shimmered in the low Martian breeze. She missed the way things used to be, sharing tea on the Earth Station rooftop, fixing drones side by side, making silly jokes over late-night snacks. She pulled out her notebook and wrote quietly. Sometimes you can be in the same place and still feel far away. She closed the book and stared at the horizon. A deep sadness filled her. Had she come all this way for nothing? But then, a voice behind her said, You still carry that notebook everywhere, don't you? Zoe turned. Lily stood there, holding 2 mugs of warm tea. Yeah, Zoe said, smiling a little. It helps me think. Lily sat beside her on the bench. I used to love watching you write in it. You always looked so focused. It's like you were making the future with your pen. Zoe looked down. Sometimes I don't know what the future is anymore. There was a pause. Lily spoke softly. Zoe, I haven't been the best at showing it, but I'm glad you're here. Really glad. Zoe met her eyes. Then why do I still feel like I'm visiting, not staying? Lily sighed. Because everything here is so different now. The colony's growing. There's pressure, plans, schedules. I didn't know how to make space for us again. I guess I got scared. Zoe nodded slowly. I get it, but I didn't come to change the past. I came to build something new with you. Lily smiled. Then let's build it. The next day, Zoe had an idea. She asked the colony director for permission to start a new project, a memory room, a quiet space inside the colony with holopictures, soft lights, and starflower gardens, a place where people could remember home, rest, and reconnect. She invited everyone to help. Engineers donated old metal panels. Scientists offered unused lights. Kids brought small keepsakes from Earth. Slowly, the room came together. Zoe built benches and shelves. Lily painted stars on the ceiling. Together, they recreated pieces of Earth-projected forests, humming rivers, flickering campfires. When it was finished, the colony gathered to see it. People stepped inside and grew quiet. Some smiled, some cried. One man whispered, "It feels like home." Zoe watched them, her heart full. She turned to Lily, who squeezed her hand. That night, Zoe and Lily sat in the memory room alone. Holostars above them shimmered like real ones. A soft breeze from the air system made the petals of the starflowers tremble gently. Lily looked at Zoe. "You did this?" Zoe shook her head. "We did, all of us." "But it started with you," Lily said. "You didn't give up, even when I pulled away. That's so human." Zoe smiled. "Humans don't stop when things get hard. We find a way. We build what's missing." Lily leaned against her. "Shoulder, you didn't just reconnect with me. You helped this whole colony feel less alone." Zoe felt warmth rise in her chest. For the first time in weeks, the distance between them was truly gone. Outside, Mars was still a quiet, cold world. But inside that small dome, something beautiful had bloomed: hope, friendship, and a shared promise that no distance was too great to cross. That was the human spirit, bold, creative, and full of heart. And Zoe carried it with her in every step, every plan, every word written in her little notebook. She didn't know exactly what tomorrow would bring, but she knew. One thing for sure, whatever happened, they would face it together. Zoe stood by the window of the colony dome, looking out at the silent Martian desert. The sky was a soft red, and the wind left thin trails in the dust. She had been on Mars for nearly 2 months now. She had built a garden, started projects, and even created the memory room. People smiled when they saw her. They thanked her. But today something felt empty. Lily had been working late again. She'd missed breakfast, lunch, and even their usual evening walk. Zoe tried not to worry, but a familiar feeling returned: the ache of distance. It was different now. Lily was just down the hall, but somehow still far away. Zoe hugged her arms to her chest and whispered, "Why do I still feel like I'm losing you?" Later that evening, Zoe walked to the garden. The blue starflowers shimmered under the lights, just as they had back on Earth. She sat alone on the bench they had built together. She pulled out her notebook and flipped through the pages. Poems, memories, hopes. All of it was written for Lily. She turned to a blank page and slowly began to write, "Even when you're near, I miss you. I don't know what to say. I just want us back." She stopped writing when she heard footsteps. Lily appeared beside her, holding 2 mugs of warm tea. Her face looked tired, but her eyes were kind. "I'm sorry I've been distant," she said softly. Zoe took the mug without speaking. Lily sat down. "The work has been overwhelming. I thought staying busy would help, but it only made me feel farther away from the people I care about, especially you. I thought if I came here, we'd just go back to how things were. But nothing's that simple." "No," Lily said. "It's not. But that doesn't mean we can't make something better." Zoe turned to look at her. "Do you still want to?" Lily smiled gently. "Yes, more than anything." They sat together in silence, the warm tea between them, the soft lights of the garden glowing like stars. Zoe finally whispered, "I don't need things to be perfect. I just don't want to feel alone when I'm with you." "You're not alone," Lily said. "You never were. I just forgot how to show it." Zoe reached into her bag and pulled out a small object wrapped in cloth. "I made this for you," she said. Lily opened it slowly. Inside was a tiny starflower made of crystal and wire. Its petals lit up when touched. "It's for your lab desk," Zoe explained. "So even if we're apart during the day, you'll remember our garden." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "It's beautiful. Thank you." That night, Lily invited Zoe to the lab. They stayed up late fixing an old satellite dish together. Zoe helped realign the signal coils while Lily updated the software. They laughed when they dropped tools and bumped elbows. It felt natural. Again, warm, familiar. As they worked, Lily turned and said, "Do you remember the day we met?" Zoe smiled. "You were fixing a drone that wouldn't fly straight. I told you it needed a new gyro." "And you were right," Lily said, laughing. "You always find the thing that's broken and fix it." "Even people," Zoe looked at her. "I don't want to fix you. I just want to be with you." Lily reached out and took her hand. "Then let's keep building together." The next morning, the whole colony gathered for a surprise. Zoe and Lily had spent the night preparing something new, a live link between Earth Station Alpha and the Martian colony. The new signal tower, connected to the fixed dish, beamed a clear transmission through space. The first image to appear was Earth's blue glow. The second was Zoe's old workshop. Her co-workers waved and held up a sign that read, "We miss you, Zoe." Tears filled her eyes. She waved back. The whole colony clapped and cheered. That night, Zoe and Lily stood under the dome hand in hand. The memory room glowed in the distance. The starflowers swayed. Far above them, Earth sparkled. Like a dream, Zoe felt something shift inside. Not sadness, not distance. Peace. She had crossed space with hope in her heart. Even when the connection felt broken, she never stopped trying. That was what made her human, not just the strength to endure, but the courage to care. As the stars blinked, overhead Zoe smiled. She and Lily had found their way back to each other not by holding on to the past, but by believing in a future they could build. Together. Always.